Heidi Priebe.
And I'm Denzel, Mensah.
Today we're going to be delving into the dominant function of ESFPs and ESTPs, as well as the auxiliary function of ISFPs and ISTPs. This week we're continuing our cognitive function series, and we're going to be focusing on extraverted sensing. So Denzel, you use this function as your tertiary function. So tertiary for ENTJs and ENFJs, and then it's inferior for INFJs and INTJs. So a lot of people use the function, but as with any function, it presents very differently if you're using it in last place versus first place. So we're going to focus mostly on what it looks like in ESFPs and ESTPs, since it's their dominant function, as well as ISFPs, ISTPs. But if you have any questions about what it looks like in the tertiary or inferior position, we're happy to answer those too. And Denzel can probably give us a lot of really great information about what it looks like for him. He uses it third.
So SE is short for extraverted sensing, and like Heidi said, it's the dominant for the ESTP, the auxiliary or second function for the ISFP, ISTP, tertiary for ENFJ, ENTJ, and then last for INFJ and INTJ. And the way that I defined it was concerned with what is on an empirical level and being completely in the present moment. This function allows the individual to take things at face value and act quickly on one's feet. SE also permits the individual to be completely in tune with their body, aware of their surroundings, and have an overall heightened level of the five senses. They can seem sometimes shallow, flashy, and appear to have ADHD. And I made jokes like that for like all of the functions.
I think that SE is almost more entrepreneurial than NE in a lot of ways. It just focuses on what needs to be done now. Like, it's very in tune with what's like cool, what's happening, what's on the cusp of becoming a really big thing. They can kind of like very intuitively understand what's relevant right now, and they can use that to seek new opportunities and be like, wow, this is something a lot of people are focusing on, but nobody's capitalizing on it now. I'm going to capitalize on that. So they're very opportunistic. They're incredibly aware of different opportunities in their environment. So again, that's something we often give to NE, but SE is like the master of just knowing, like, here's the 5,000 opportunities that are available to me out there. So like in examples, like I have an ESFP friend who he works in like the field of careers and like kind of a broad spectrum, but like connecting people with careers. And he's so good at just like knowing everything that's out there at all times, all the opportunities that exist, what it would take you to get which places. They're really good at seeing like, here's where it would take to get to here very quickly and very directly. So they're really good at sourcing opportunities. They're really good at taking advantage of opportunities. And they're also just very like adventurous, very creative, extremely creative. Like they have this really wonderful appreciation and ability for art, for like any kind, like dance, like mostly like visual, but also like I know a lot of really great SE dominant writers. So you have just this very intense creativity that comes along with this function that I think is often misattributed to ENFPs and ENTPs, whereas we have a more theoretical creativity. They have a more like purely artistic creativity, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how I look at SE. I look at it as like creative, opportunistic, entrepreneurial, adventurous, open-minded, flexible, adaptable, quick on its feet, like performs well under pressure. Those are all the things I see SE.
SE, the function in and of itself, looks at things purely for what it is. And so being an objective function and then being an objective like sensing function, extroverted sensing, then it looks at something and it takes it for face value. This even comes with like what they hear. So it's not usually until they like, attach it to like TI or FI, whichever one that the SE user is like using, that they add like some type of meaning to it or try and interpret it in some way. But aside from those functions, SE looks at things like very empirically. They usually have very, very, very good common sense. Like they just know what to do in certain moments. They tend to have a natural, great fashion sense. And the SE users that I know, I hang out with like a lot of SE users. And they're always trying to help me out with my style because it's an ENFJ. Although it's tertiary, it's still tertiary, so it's something that I had to like work on. But for some reason, they have, just like Heidi said, a very good aesthetic like view on things, and so they're also like really good with using. This is usually the function that when you look online, then they talk about like using their five senses and everything. And it's not necessarily in like a dumb way, like, oh, I only use my five senses, but I see it more as in like they have a very heightened um relationship with their five senses.
Yeah, I describe it as like a very, very intense awareness. So, like,
Yeah.
whereas other types are kind of constantly filtering things out of their perceptions, SE is really taking everything in. So, like, one of the best descriptions I ever read of SE one time was someone who used it described it as like you walk into a room and most people notice like a few different things. They notice maybe like who's in the room, what the temperature is, whatever. And they're like, an SC user has this very intense awareness of literally everything, and it's so fast. So they walk in and they see like, this person's over there, these things are over there, this is happening over here, here's what's going on over here. And because they are taking in all of that and they're processing it so quickly and so intensely, they're also extremely good at predicting what's about to happen. This is something like we love to give it to NI users. We're like, oh, they're so good at predicting the future. But like SE is also extremely good at that when it comes to their immediate environment, because whereas NI takes a long time to process things, so they're looking at the long-term future, an SE user is able to really quickly walk into a room and be like, these three people are here, they're doing this thing's happening over here, they're gonna probably go over here, this is gonna happen, and this person's gonna come in and they're gonna react to this way towards this person. So they are so insanely good at taking in everything that's going on and making very quick assumptions about what's about to happen, which is why they're also really excellent like speakers and motivators, because they're so good at gauging reactions. Whereas other people kind of have to step back and think about like, how is this going to be received? The SC user is so in tune with what's happening as it's happening that they're able to very quickly predict even like, how is this joke going to go over? Like, it's just this like very intuitive awareness for them because they're so in tune with everything that's going on that they're able to make these like snap judgments that make them really, really good at thinking on their feet and predicting what's about to happen like in 1 second, then in 2 seconds, which is also why you get really talented SC users who are athletes, because they're taking things in so sharply and so quickly that like, if they're in a tennis match, like they can tell, whereas other people have to process more slowly, like, okay, maybe like this ball is coming at me or whatever. They're just there and they're like completely in tune with it. And they're so good at predicting what's about to happen 3 seconds from now. Where exactly do I need to be in 3 seconds from now? Whereas other people, like, it would take them forever to process that kind of stuff. But they're just so one with their environment. And that's why they're so good under pressure, because they're just so excellent at holding all of the environmental stimulus in their mind at one time and understanding how it interacts with other things in the environment. It just naturally connects to them. Whereas for the rest of us, we have to kind of think about how those things connect. Direct is such a good word to describe SE. It's the most direct function. Like, it looks at things and it can very quickly pick out, like, here's what matters, here's what's important, let's focus on that. Whereas I think most of the other functions really are very prone to overcomplicating things. But SE is looking at like what's workable, what's actionable, what can we take from this, and how can we apply it. So I think that actually gives them a natural aptitude for like most things, not just things that are, like athletic or physical, but even like intellectual pursuits. I find they're very good at just like looking at a whole bunch of information and quickly being able to pick out, here's what's important, here's the point, here's what matters, and here's what's going to be effective in conveying it to other people. If you look at like the neuroscience behind what's going on in SE users' brains, Dario Nardi calls it a tennis hop pattern. So you're moving quickly from one idea to the next. You're kind of bouncing between a whole bunch of different ideas. So they're able to bring one idea almost into the next situation in a way that's funny and novel. So they have this really quick ability to connect things in a way that's really entertaining. And I think that's something that we undervalue in SE. So I think we're out of time for today, but if you guys have any questions, as always, shoot them our way. We'll try to answer as many as we can.
For sure. Thanks for tuning in, and see you guys next week.
Ciao.
I'm David Bowder, CEO of SPASIGMA. Every day, each of us is surrounded by a great diversity of people, and indeed, personalities. Some people we find it very easy to relate to. Others, not so much so. Our program exists to help you make sense of your own personality, as well as the diverse personalities around you, to help you improve both your personal and professional lives. Shakespeare said, "To thine own self be true." We'll teach you to understand how to reach the diverse personalities around you, to communicate with them in a way that integrates who you are with who they are. So enough talk about all this. Welcome to SPASIGMA's Personality Quotient PQ program. Enjoy the journey.